The types of constructors in the Python. In the Python programming, we have three types of constructors are available. The first one is default constructor, the second one is non-parameterized constructor, and the third one is parameterized constructor. Let me try to explain one by one. The first one is default constructor. So Python interpreter itself, it will provide one default constructor if there is no constructor is defined in the given class. Or we can simply call it as Python add a default constructor when we do not include the constructor in the class or forget to declare it. The Python interpreter itself automatically it will add one default constructor if there is no constructor in the given class. And coming to this default constructor main intention. So the default constructor main intention is it is used to initialize all the objects. That's all. And it is a simple empty constructor without having any body. Without having any body, it is a simple empty constructor. With the help of this empty constructor, it will try to initialize all the objects of the class. That's all. Now, let me try to take one example. So, in this class, the class name is sample. In the sample class, I did not create the constructor. I did not provide the constructor. And if I am trying to create the object of the class, before going to create the object of the class, let me try to take one user defined function. The function name is my function or the method name is my method. And it is a instance method, don't worry. While at the time of discussing the types of methods, you will get the complete idea. So it is a simple instance method. So for this method, we are passing the current class object. How we are passing this current class object? It is coming from the constructor. Now in this method, let me try to print one simple message. Print hi. So it is a simple method which is available in the given class. So in this class, we have only one member is available. That member is one instance method. And there is no constructor at all. But while at the time of creating the object of the class, let me try to create the object of the class. While at the time of creating the object of the class, if the constructor is not at all available physically within the class, the Python interpreter itself, it will create one default constructor. And for the default constructor, it does not have method body, it does not have the body, but just it is having the one simple definition. Def, the constructor syntax is underscore underscore init underscore underscore with the help of self keyword. So like that, one default virtual constructor will be created while at the time of creating the object of the class. Actually, I did not provide the constructor in the given class, but while at the time of creating the object of the class, the Python interpreter will automatically create one default constructor. With the help of the default constructor, we can initialize the object of the class. Try to check it. There is no constructor concept, but while at the time of creating the object of the class, the constructor will be coming into the picture. Here we are unable to get any output. Why? Because we did not print any output. So with the help of the same object, let me try to call the my function s dot my function. Here we are simply calling the my function with the help of the object of the given class. Now the output will be hi message. Why? Because we are creating the object of the class. While at the time of creating the object of the class, the default constructor will be automatically coming into the picture. If it is explicitly available, don't worry. So the explicit constructor related code will be executable. If there is no constructor is available in the given class, in the sense, automatically the Python interpreter will create one default constructor in the given class. So within that constructor, there is no body at all, and just it is used to initialize the object of the class. That's all. And with the help of the object of the given class, we are calling the simple my function. Now the output is hi message. Try to check it now. So we are getting hi message, and as well as in the same class we are having one default constructor also. While at the time of executing, the Python interpreter will add one default constructor in the given class. That's all. And coming to the second method, and the second constructor is non-parameterized constructor. All of you please observe. So non-parameterized constructor in the sense, it does not accept any arguments while at the time of creating the object of the given class. So while at the time of creating the object of the given class, it does not accept any kind of arguments. And a constructor without any arguments, we can simply call it as a non-parameterized constructor. But the thing is, for this constructor, one of the important keyword that we need to bind here is self keyword. Self is the default argument which is available in the non-parameterized constructor. And this type of constructor is used to initialize each object with its default values. for every object creation, for that object if you want to assign some default values, we can assign them with the help of non-parameterized constructor. The reason is, while at the time of creating the object of the given class, it is not possible to pass the arguments with the help of non-parameterized constructor. Whatever the default values that you want to assign, you can assign them with the help of non-parameterized constructor. So instead, it initializes every object with the same set of values. Yes, that is the correct point. So it will assign the same set of values for all the objects. Let me try to prove it. So for this, in the same class, let me try to take, so I want to take one new program. The program name itself is student. The class name itself is student class. In the student class, let me try to take one constructor. How to take the constructor? Def followed by underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Self is the default parameter which is available in the given constructor. Please remember it. Even for the non-parameterized constructor also, self is the one of the default parameter which is available in the non-parameterized constructor. Now within the student class, let me try to take two variables which are in the format of instance variables with the help of current class object. Self is the current class object. Self dot, so SID in the sense student ID. For student ID, I am assigning the value 10. I am trying to initialize the instance variable, and the instance variable here is SID, and for that SID the value that we are assigning here is 10. As well as one more variable, self dot, it is also instance variable, self dot sname, student name. The student name is Ravi. So within this constructor, we are taking two instance variables. We are declaring two instance variables. That is the purpose of the constructor. With the help of constructor, we can declare the instance variables as well as we can initialize them. We can assign some values to those instance variables. Here the two instance variables that we are taking here is SID and sname. For SID, the value that we are assigning is 10, and as well as for the sname, the value that we are assigning here is Ravi. That is the content of the constructor. As well as, let me try to take one user defined method. Def underscore underscore, so sorry, it is not the constructor. Let me try to take one method, display student data. So it is a simple instance method. That's why I am taking the current class object as a parameter. For all the instance methods also, we need to take the self as a parameter. Don't worry, while at the time of types of methods, I will discuss this concept. Don't worry about it. So within this display method, let me try to print the two instance variables, self dot, self in the sense current class object. With the help of current class object, we can print the SID comma self dot sname. Now in this class, we have two members are available. The two members are, one is one default constructor and the second one is one simple user defined method, and that too the type of the method is instance method. Why? Because in the method the parameter that is available is instance variable. Self is acting as like as a current class object. Now in this class we have two members are available. One is constructor and the second one is one method. Now let me try to create the object of the class. How to create the object of the class? We need to come outside the scope of the class and try to create the object. Here the first object is S1, and how to create the object of the given class? Just use the class name student, and you need to pass any parameters for the given constructor. Why? Because it is a non-parameterized constructor. For this non-parameterized constructor, we need not to pass any arguments while at the time of creation of the object. Now just call the class name student. Automatically it will call the constructor which is available in the given class. Through this constructor, from the 12th line, the control flow will be entering into the constructor code. In this constructor, we are declaring two instance variables. One is SID and second one is sname. For SID, the value is 10, and for the sname, the value is Ravi. Now, after successful creation of the object of the given class, so with the help of the same object S1, we can print the display method. How to call the display method? Display method is the one of the object specific or instance method, and we can simply call it with the help of the object of the class. So the object of the class name itself is S1, and as well as with the help of that S1 we are calling the display method. So for this particular method calling, the output that we are getting here is, with respect to the S1 object, the SID is 10 and as well as the sname is Ravi. Why? Because well, at the time of creating the S1 object, we are invoking the constructor. Within the constructor, For these two variables, we are assigning some default values. The output is 10 and Ravi. Try to check it. And if you are going to create one more object, S2, student 2. For the student 2 also, with the help of non-parameterized constructor in the sense, while at the time of creating the object of the class, we need not to pass any parameters. So with the help of non-parameterized constructor, for this S2 object also, we are assigning the same default values. For S2 object also, the SID is 10 only and SName is Ravi only. Why? Because while at the time of creating the object of S2 is the object for the student, we are calling the same constructor one more time, and with the help of this same constructor, we are assigning the same values to the SID and SName which are with respect to the S2 object. Now try to call S2.display. So with the help of S2.display, now the current object is S2. While at the time of calling the display method, in the self, the current object scope will be available. The current object scope is S2. Why? Because with the help of S2, we are calling the display method. In this self keyword, the current object nature S2 is available. With respect to the S2 also, the SID is 10 only, the SName is Ravi only. So try to check it now. If I am going to run the program, for the two objects, the SID and SName is same. The reason is, with the help of non-parameterized constructor, we can assign the default values for all the object specific variables for all objects. Please remember it. If you want to assign different values for different objects, for example, for S1, I want to assign SID 10 and as well as SName is Ravi. As well as for S2, I want to assign some other value. Instead of 10, I want to assign 20 and the name that I want to assign here is some Rahul. In order to do like this, we need to follow the third methodology. The third methodology is parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor in the sense, while at the time of creating the object of the class, we can pass some parameters also. So a constructor with defined parameters or arguments, we can simply call it as a parameterized constructor. And in this parameterized constructor, while at the time of creating the object of the class, we can pass some parameters. We can pass different values. And the first parameter is, so within the constructor, the first parameter is self and the remaining all the parameters as a programmer we need to pass. Please remember it. A parameterized constructor can have as many number of parameters as you want, as many number of arguments as you want. There is no doubt. You can take 3 arguments, 4 arguments or 10 arguments also. There is no problem at all. Now for this, with the help of parameterized constructor, for different objects we can assign different values. Let me try to tell it with the help of example. So now within the same example, instead of taking the default non-parameterized constructor, let me try to take parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor in the sense, it is very simple. So instead of taking self keyword, so along with the self keyword, try to define some other parameters, SID as well as SName. Now within this constructor, along with the self keyword, 2 more parameters are there. And for these 2 more parameters, while at the time of creation of the object of the class, we can pass the 2 values. Now the same parameters we can set for the SID and SName. Let me try to set it. The 2 parameter values I am setting it for the instance variables SID and SName in the student class, SName. And it is a parameterized constructor. While at the time of creating the object of the class, we should not make the class constructor is empty. Definitely we need to pass the required parameters. Here 2 explicit parameters are there, SID and SName. While at the time of creation of the object of the class also, we need to pass the 2 parameters. Self is the one of the default parameter, we need not to pass it explicitly. So for the remaining 2 parameters, SID and SName, we need to pass the values while at the time of creating the object of the class. So here the constructor is parameterized constructor. For this constructor, 2 parameters are there. Definitely while at the time of creating the object of the class also, we need to pass 2 parameters. Otherwise you will get the error. Let me try to check it. If I am going to run this program, we are having parameterized constructor, but while at the time of creating the object of the class, we are not at all passing any parameters. Here the error is type error, missing two required positional arguments for SID and as well as SNAME. So the reason is this constructor is a parameterized constructor, but unfortunately while at the time of creating the object we are not at all passing any parameter. So two explicit parameters related values we need to pass. So for the first student I want to assign the SID is 10 and as well as the name that I want to assign here is Ravi. So please observe in the 12th line, while at the time of creating the S1 object, the parameterized constructor will be coming into the picture. In the SID parameter, the 10 value will be available. In the SNAME, the Ravi will be available. And that SID and SNAME, we are assigning them to the instance variables or the object specific variables which are available in the given class student. And while at the time of printing the display method with the help of S1 object, so through S1 object, the values that we are setting here is 10 and Ravi. The same values we are getting as a output in this method calling. And for the S2 object also, without passing the parameters, it is not possible to create the object. The reason is we are having parameterized constructor. For this parameterized constructor, definitely we need to pass two values. Otherwise, you will get the error. Please remember it. Now, the beauty of the parameterized constructor is for different objects we can assign different values. For the second object S2, let me try to assign some other values. So here the value that I am assigning, SID is 20 and the SNAME is Rahul. While at the time of creating the S2 object, we are passing 20 to the SID and Rahul to the SNAME. The same values we are assigning to the instance variables of the given class, and here the instance of this particular constructor is S2. S2 is the nature that is available in the self keyword. Through the S2 object, the SID is 20 and the SNAME is Rahul. Due to that reason only, while at the time of calling the display method with the help of S2 object, so in this self keyword, the current object nature is S2. With respect to the S2 object, while at the time of creating the S2 object, the values that we are passing is 20 and Rahul, so that for this display method, you will get 20 and Rahul as a output. So the beauty of the parameterized constructor is for different objects, while at the time of creating the objects, we can pass different values. Dynamically, we can pass different values. Like this, we can take n number of parameters, not only 2. If you want to take 10 parameters also, you can take 10 parameters. If I am going to run this program, try to check it. Here the output is for S1 object, for the first student, the student ID is 10 and the name is Ravi. For the second student, the student ID is 20 and as well as the student name is Rahul. That's all. With this, I hope you got the complete idea regarding all the three types of parameters, all the three types of constructors which are available in the Python programming. That's all. With this, I am going to end up the session. Thank you.